Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Talk at Elevation by Fan Nation. We're your hosts, Michaela and Addison, and we are so excited to introduce Carson Huelle, head girls basketball coach at Fort Collins High School. But before we dive into getting to know him, let's talk about your tailgating needs this season. Fan Nation's Fan Shop merchandise has your tailgating game covered. Grills, chairs, drinks, coolers. Visit fandayNation.com and shop Fans Shop today. I can't tailgate without my trusty cooler, because who doesn't want ice cold drinks all game long?
Gear up at Fan Day Nation, jersey, hats, and more in the Fan Day shop merchandise. Show your pride at fandayNation.com. I'll always rock my Broncos jersey. It's my game day essential. All right, Carson, welcome to the Talk at Elevation. We are so excited to have you here. You've come full circle from playing, graduating from Fort Collins High School, and then now leading the girls basketball program. How did you get this role in basketball in the very beginning? How did it start? The passion, the love, and then what does it mean to be back in your alma mater?
Yeah, this is awesome. First off, thanks for having me here, guys. This is great. We were commenting on the setup behind us. This is wonderful. And to answer your question, I mean, it really has come full circle for me. Basketball, it seems like since the very beginning, I've been around the game. My dad was actually a college basketball coach, so he coached 13 years on the men's side, and his last stop was actually at the University of Northern Colorado. Okay. And so some of my favorite stories, at least that my mom will share, is that during timeouts when he was at the University of Northern Colorado, my brother and I were little toddlers. We'd run on the court during halftime. So it was kind of honestly since I was born.
You were like literally running into it.
Exactly. So I use that example because of two things. That's where I was born, but then I also realized very quickly that basketball is not everything, because then my dad got out of coaching because he wanted to be around me and my brother more often and really raise us as a family. So I was really fortunate to be in a family where basketball was a huge deal for us, but it wasn't everything. So played all throughout high school, went to Fort Collins High School, and this is my bragging time. My junior year, I was on a team that went 22-4 and made it to the Elite Eight. It was the best record in school history.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of fun. But by the time I was a senior, I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to play college basketball. It was always something that I wanted to do for sure. And got the opportunity to play at the next level. I spent 2 years at Doane University and then transferred to Augsburg University in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which gave me an opportunity to play. But then I also started coaching, started doing some stuff with the WNBA on the social media side of things, and then got into women's basketball, coaching at a Division III school, Lawrence University. And then last season, I spent my time at a Division II school, William Jewell College. Okay. And then really to bring it full circle, I just moved home because I was like, I just want to be with my family again, because I had been to so many different states between playing and coaching. I'm like, I just want to be around family. I didn't know how long I was going to be out of coaching. I just knew I needed a refresh. And then like 2 months into being back in Fort Collins, the job opened up, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if I can pass. I don't know if I can pass this one up. So
right. It was like right there, like out for you.
Yeah, like people kind of kept poking me. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Stop poking me. I'll do it. I'll do it. So very blessed though. It wasn't just given to me. I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there that, wanted that opportunity. And it was something that I was like, if I'm going to do this, we're going to do it right. And so it's been a lot of fun so far, but, just feel very blessed.
Thank you. That's super awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Obviously, just talked about your athletic career. It's been full circle. You're coming back. But let's go back to your academic career as well. You graduated summa cum laude with a psychology degree and a 4.0 GPA. How has your background in psychology influenced the way you coach athletes and think about their mental performance as well as their personal development?
Yeah, this is great. Great question. And then also I get to boast about my academic career too.
Get to brag about that.
I wasn't always a good student in high school. I was pretty average, but when I went to college, that was something. And for any athletes that are listening to this too, it was something that I communicated with my parents. I didn't get all my school covered, but my parents were, once again, very blessed. They said, we will help cover, if you get good grades. And so I was like, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to be the best student athlete, out there. And so worked really hard on both of those sides. So I was not goofing around, partying, doing all that fun stuff. I was like, I'm going to focus on this because number one, I wanted to, do what was right. And when you're there and you're going to school, you want to make sure you're focusing your time on the right things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then also, I'm really passionate about psychology. And so my mom, she was in the psychiatric field. She worked at Mountain Crest, actually in Fort Collins. And growing up, I just knew a lot about psychology, knew it was important. And then my dad is a good old boy from Wyoming. And he's like, I don't know about the psychology thing, but he's like, I knew it would make me a lot better of a coach if I knew about it.
Yeah.
And so just naturally growing up, I was like, man, psychology is where it's at. I was just kind of naturally like, I tell the story, but like during my off periods in high school, I would go and I'd pull up lectures from like colleges and just listen to like professors talking about psychology.
Wow,
and so it was kind of weird, right? But at the same time, I was really passionate about it. So by the time I got to actually major in it in college, I was like, this is sweet. But there's such a
right?
exactly right. So, but there was still a gap there between not just psychology and human performance, but then basketball specifically. And so, your question is great because you see it every single day in sports, right? And there's been a lot of good resources out there to help athletes, but it's still completely underused. And I think the NCAA is trying to add additional resources too. But what I've told people, and I think what's so important to understand, is that the number one resource is who your head coach is. If your head coach doesn't value mental health, they're going to take that love out of the game, right away. And so for me, we can have, psychologists in our programs, whether it's a professional team or it's a college team. Our high schools can have high school counselors. But guess what? If every single day you go to practice and your coach is doing things explicitly to make your life worse from a mental health perspective, that's the issue. And so that's what you have to fix. And so for me, that's part of why I got into coaching, and specifically on the girls' side too, because there's less stigma, I would say, on that side. People are more willing to at least speak about it or talk about it, and they want that help. So I experience it every single day, and I'm very welcome to those conversations, even when they're not easy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you hear stories all the time about, you quit your sport because your coach isn't there and helping you and doing what you need to do, and people fall out of love with the game. So
it's unfortunate.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So you played at the college level and then you finished your career at Oxford University. How did your time as a student athlete shape your perspective on athlete branding and the importance of building the relationship beyond just the game?
Yeah, it's funny because what we're doing right now, talking my my senior year, I actually had a podcast that I did with my best friend from high school who I played with.
Oh, no way.
And so he went on, and we have a CSU student here, so I'm gonna say this lightly. He went to CU, so he was a buff, but he went and he got his degree there in film. And so as he was doing that, I was playing college sports, but I loved film, and so we did a podcast about filmmaking. And so during that time, I was coaching. I was doing stuff for the WNBA on kind of more of a social media brand side. And then at the same time, too, I was doing a podcast speaking with, actors, actresses, directors, all that type of stuff. And so for me, when you talk about that, I don't see how you could do it any differently. Yeah. I think as humans, there are some people out there that are really just devoted to one thing and that's all they care about. But for me, I have so many different interests. Yeah, exactly. And I love passion, right? I think you can hear it when someone talks,
100%.
When they're really passionate about something opposed to being burnt out of something. Right. And so for me, I see all those things as one. And that's how you connect with people too, I think, as a coach and as a human being too. When you can say, hey, did you see the newest Conjuring movie in theaters or whatever it might be, you can connect with people on that level. And so when you look at brand identity and kind of what that looks like, I think for me, people want to invest in the players that have a personality.
100%.
I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes out there, but the jock that all they care about is, their sport and they never show up to class and all that type of stuff. Right. Those are stereotypes. And I think as athletes, we have to break those stereotypes, and we also have to break those things as coaches too, and help athletes find different interests outside of a sport. Because if your identity is completely just into your sport, number one, your mental health is probably going to be
100%. Yep.
but then also when we look at the NIL market and we look at people that are wanting to invest in these players, why would I invest in someone that has zero interest? They're not going to class, all this type of stuff. We have to create a foundation or a person that I think is relatable. So good question. But for me, it always kind of came a little bit naturally. But finding that for other people, I think as a coach now, is really important too. Like, what is your why outside of sports? You know, what are some of your other passions?
You have to have more in life, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. It ties back into that psychology part, you know, and that mental stability of having not just your sport, but your whole life. And like you proved that whole thing wrong, obviously, because you were a great student and you were an athlete. Like, props to you. And especially, I don't know how you're breathing doing all those things at the same time first off. So congrats. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I might have gone to the hospital my senior year because it was a lot.
Burned down? Oh my God.
So, but we'll enjoy that. Probably, I made it through. It was a lot.
So you've coached both at Division III and Division II, like you mentioned, earlier at Lawrence University and William Jewell College. Now you're at the high school level. A couple back-to-back questions here. What is the difference in coaching that level at college and in high school? And you've also been a recruiting coordinator as well. But from a branding standpoint, what do you think young athletes can do to stand out during this recruiting process?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So first, the first question revolving around college athletics versus high school. I don't want to overgeneralize this, but naturally you would think that college athletes are very devoted to that specific sport because they've worked so long for that sport. And so I would say that generally college athletes are more motivated, you know, than high school athletes because they're not dealing with so many different things. Like in high school, you've got school, you might be a dual sport athlete, so you're playing different. You might be in a club, all that type of stuff. But the reason that I say not all the time is because there's some high school athletes that might not end up playing college sports that are really, really talented, and they might just not want to play college sports. So you have to be careful with that. But I will say with the Division II model compared to Division III, because you can't be on an athletic scholarship at the Division III level, and then high school, you have kids that have been working a long time on their game. So they specialize really early. And their goal has been to eventually get a college scholarship. And so at the Division II level, you have kids that like really, really love the game and are obsessed with the game. It doesn't mean that you can't find that at the high school level, but you have kids that are at the high school level where it's maybe just more of a hobby or something that they enjoy. They want to be on a team, but they don't have any intent of playing at the next level.
Right.
With college athletes, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like they might be there at a college strictly for the sport first and then academics second. When you're in high school, you're in the public school system, you know, or private school, but public school system, you're playing on a team and you're showing up. The only time you really have to pay for it is, you know, get your physical, your orange card, and you know, and then you're good. With college, there's a lot more that goes into it. You got to tour these schools, so you kind of choose the school that you want to go to. High school, you show up and hope for the best.
Exactly.
So then, you know, going more to the brand identity, you know, kind of component to it while you're getting recruited, I think it's so important to show schools who you are outside of the sport. So, you know, being a recruiting coordinator at Lawrence University and then did a lot of recruiting at William Jewell too, every single phone call, I'm really proud of this too. I never would start a phone conversation and ask them about basketball. To me, that's secondary to who you are as a person. And so, especially at the Division III level, you have to have kids that love academics. And so for me, I want to get kids that aren't going to show up here, and if basketball doesn't work out or they get injured, they're going to just be a negative person to the team. Like, you know, I want to make sure that when they show up, they're going to get something out of this experience outside of basketball too. So every recruiting call that I took, I wanted to make sure that I know what their family's about. I want to know, you know, what type of person they are in the academic realm too. And then on top of everything, I want to know what interests they have outside of the sport as well. So kind of this theme of not just being an athlete, I think is really important. And so in the recruiting game, I would encourage athletes, you know, as they push things out to coaches over email, right, on Twitter, whatever it might be. They might be on NCSA recruiting websites, all that type of stuff. Talk about what you want to major in, what you're interested in outside of it. Talk about, your GPA, all those types of things. Coaches do not just want someone that only plays basketball, so I think that can really create some brand identity. And then on top of that too, like the fun stuff too, what makes you, there's a lot of fun players, out on the court. I think that's why Caitlin Clark is so marketable. And that's why, at Iowa, she got so many brand deals, but then it still is in the WNBA because the way that she plays, number one, but doing what we're doing right now, she is very well spoken. And she's someone that I think people like to listen to because she's intelligent. She knows the game, all those things. I could go down the list. It's not just her, but people see reason to put her in a State Farm commercial. It's not just because, it's not just because she's Caitlin Clark.
Right.
They know that she's going to do a good job when she shows up in that capacity as well, too.
Yeah, that's great. All great points. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
Super cool. At Lawrence, you were part of the most successful stretch in 2 decades.
Yeah.
What role does culture and personal identity play in a winning program, and how do you help players brand themselves within that?
Yeah, it's everything. It's everything. And so going back to that, so when I got the job at Lawrence University, they had never had a full-time assistant coach.
Oh, wow.
And so my boss, Riley Wool, great guy, and he had worked really, really hard to try and get the program to a place where it once was. In the early 2000s, they had some really good teams, and he was an assistant there, a part-time assistant there during that time. And so when he got the head coaching position, he did a lot of things right to try and get the culture and the team, everything. Yeah, exactly. Like he didn't do anything to hurt it, but there's only so much you can do when you're doing it by yourself. Right. And so by the time I got there, I'm like, man, I agree with everything that you want this program to be. Let's tackle this thing together. And so from a culture component, like all this stuff we obsessed over, but called it the Viking way. That was our mascot. And it was just our core values, what we wanted to do. Like I could still list them off because they were so important to our identity.
Yeah.
And so we would have conversations about that. We'd have leadership groups, the captains on our team. Yeah, there's a standard for what we want, we always talk about, I literally just mentioned this morning because we talked about it all the time as a team. Like we would talk about leadership. It's not likership, it's leadership. The leaders on the team, our captains, like you might not agree with what they say at the time, but it might be what is needed to say, too. So during that stretch, our second season, we made it to the conference tournament. We're one win away from actually making the NCAA tournament. And that was a really fun run.
Can imagine.
Yeah, and we actually our rival in that conference is Ripon College, so they're really close to us as far as proximity in that conference. And we actually hadn't beat them in over 15 years.
What?
Like, and I'm talking not just at home or away, like 15 years.
Like straight.
Yeah.
That's the whole time.
So I told the girls during that period too, I said, last time I checked, I said a rival is someone where you're competitive with them. I said, they've beat us for 15 years straight. That's not our rival. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but like that was the wake up call that we kind of needed. But the alum that were part of the successful teams, that was the rival. And so bringing them back, I think, was really important too. I think a lot of colleges and high schools, they really struggle with that. Involve your alumni. That's part of brand identity too, because you have pride in that school. And so bringing those alumni back, I think, was huge for us too, because like they would talk with our girls and be like, we hated Ripon, like playing them. And they said we would have things as a team. Something that they made up as a team was better dead than red. That they were a red school, and so they would come up with those things to try and feel the fire. So that was fun to kind of build that up. And the way that you do that right is culture. Building it as a team and as a program. That does not happen overnight. There's a lot of headaches that you go through that process for sure. But then on top of that too, like involving the community, as well. Like, and so we had sponsors out there in the Midwest, like Toppers Pizza is a big one. But then we had a lot of brands around the school, and so we involved companies too. And so anytime that we needed to raise money, do donations, all that type of stuff, we weren't just asking a company. Like the owners of these companies would come to our games to come and support us. They would know the girls. They're shaking the girls' hands. They know who they are. So they know what they're doing when it comes down to a donation or anything like that. And so I think it's really important to create a personality, right, for yourself. and whoever you are as a person, so that these companies know like what they're getting.
Yeah, more personal.
Yeah, the personal approach too. And you can do that more, I think, at smaller schools, but I would challenge some of these Division I's too. You can do it at these schools too. You know, take the time to meet community members, to meet small businesses. My dad is a small business owner, and you know, so I've seen it. Like these companies want something that they get something back for too. Like I'm gonna go to that game and I know, you know, this player, and they were great to me. They really helped, you know, during this process. So I would just encourage other teams to do that too, because that's what's something that worked for us as well. Get involved in the community, especially in Fort Collins. For anyone that knows the Fort Collins area, beautiful area. So many people are moving there, but there are so many great companies.
There is.
You know,
a lot of small businesses.
Yeah.
Exactly. So challenge yourself and get your kids out of their comfort zone too, because it's a leadership quality too, like to be able to talk with people and show what you can bring to the table too.
Exactly. So I know you kind of just started in this role at Fort Collins High School, and the season hasn't started yet, but how are you going to implement like that culture and the personability into?
Yeah, for sure. So I think when you are able to do any fundraising opportunities or connect with small businesses, like you want to be able to have them come to a practice or have them at a practice or a game, so that they can kind of see the product that is out there. And so anytime that they help out, like right now we have a booster club, and you know, we're getting donations from small businesses. And so we'll do things where we shout them out on social media, and that's fun, and that creates brand awareness for them, and it creates, you know, some community as well. But ultimately, like, we want these girls to meet with, you know, company owners too. Like, I'm the face right now of the program, but just, you know, I'm self-aware, like, in that, like, people don't want to just sit and talk with me for 30 minutes. They want to meet the players that are actually out there.
The heart and soul of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the ones that are playing hard. And so, you know, for me, even though it's been in a short time, I know, you know, some of the businesses that are around there, but ultimately, like, you have to have your players out there doing it too. Like, I can pick up the phone and I can call people, but ultimately, like, I'm not the one that's out there playing, you know? And so I think people want to represent things that represent their identity too. Like when we talk about culture, guess what? We have a mission statement. Guess what? We have core values. Every business does too. And so they want to align themselves with companies, with teams that can do the same thing too. And so if they come to a game and they see a team that has great sportsmanship, like respect, right? They go to a game and they see the team working extremely hard on the court, and guess what? Their core value is work ethic. You know, all those things, so on and so forth. I could go forever on that. They want to identify themselves with teams that are like that. I can guarantee you companies do not want to align themselves with a team that loses and they don't pick up the trash after the game. No one's cheering for each other when they're on the bench, and they're just jerks to one another. There was 2 technical fouls throughout the game. Companies don't want that, you know? And so that's a good way to get on the front page of the Colorado for all the wrong reasons. So
there we go.
So, you know, you have to align yourselves with companies from a team perspective that represent you, and vice versa.
100%.
Absolutely. Going back to kind of your past experiences, not only did you coach, but you also worked as a basketball trainer at Schmidt Performance. So training settings can be much more individual than coaching. So how do you implement what you've learned as a trainer and help athletes translate skill development into building their brand and personal confidence as well?
You guys are offering great questions, by the way. As I mentioned earlier, doing a podcast, like the research that goes into it, I think the passion that goes into it is really, really important, and a guest can feel that. So kudos to both of you.
She did us the work. So it's like we're there.
So you guys are doing a great job, and this is a great question. I got to be careful on how I answer this question because I could go on for a long time. So my senior year, we had a new coach. He moved from Fresno, California. And we kind of connected right away because he moved from Fresno, California because he had 2 young sons. Crime rate was going up there, wanted to move to Fort Collins. And so I kind of saw a little bit of him, you know, in my dad, because he did the same thing in the sense that he wanted to kind of step away and do something for his family. And so connected from the beginning. It wasn't always easy too, because I didn't love to play defense, honestly. And he was the first coach who was like, no, you're going to play defense.
Get out there.
Exactly. So he really helped me in that capacity. But then all those things that we're talking about, leadership, culture, it was the same thing too with that.
Yeah.
So he really helped me. I wouldn't have been able to play college basketball without him. And after I started playing college basketball, he only spent one more year at Fort Collins High School as the boys coach, and then he started Schmidt Performance. And so I was playing college basketball. He just started his new training company. Exactly. Yeah. So I was actually the first client that he had during that time.
Yeah.
And then it started to build up quite a bit. And then after I was done playing, I helped him out a little bit too. And then after moving back to Fort Collins, really helped him out a lot. And we've been doing some great work together with one another during this period since I've been back for about the past 5 months now. And he does a tremendous job. He's really reinvented himself as a coach. We have over 100 clients at Schmidt Performance, so we have a lot of hoopers in the Northern Colorado area.
That's awesome.
We have actually people, this is my humble brag here, we have people that travel from Wyoming. We actually have a family that travels from Estes Park just to do the training. And you're like, well, why would they just come down to shoot baskets? Like, that's not what we do. So we implement a system. It's called the CLA. So it's the constraint-led approach. And it's something that got popularized by transforming basketball. There's a guy named Alex Sarama that kind of invented it, but it's the data approach to basketball. And so we're not just in the gym doing stuff because it looks good or feels good. Like, two-ball dribbling, all that type of stuff, it's cool. It looks cool, but guess what? You can do that at home by yourself. So we do all things in a group setting that you can't replicate at home. And we're focused on decision-making. We're focused on reaction time. We want things to look and feel like a game so that by the time you get on the court, it's not just like, whoa, what am I doing out here? We try to make things look and feel like a game, like I said, but ultimately that means the physical component of it, but then also the mental component as well. Like, okay, you turn the ball over here. Like, we love to give feedback. It's not just Jeff and I that run Schmidt Performance. We have other coaches there. And it's like, well, what else could you have done there? Like, we like to evaluate things. So we film the entire session too. We go back and we see how we can get better on things. So it's really interactive, not just for the coaches, but also for the players. And so, you know, in my program at Fort Collins High School, we've already just in open gyms, we've implemented some things just like that too, because we try to do things at Schmidt Performance for more of a holistic, you know, background. And so we train players, like I said, not just as athletes, but as human beings too. And we try to help them become better, you know, humans as well. And so Fort Collins High School, I'm doing the same exact thing too. If I can't get the trust of an athlete from a human connection, it's going to be very hard for me to help them grow as an athlete. You know, like, why the heck do you keep turning the ball over? Like, if I question an athlete like that, it's like probably because I don't have a great relationship with that kid, because every time I put them out on the court, they're really nervous. So, you know, it starts with a relationship. And then when we get on the court, I want to make sure we're doing things that resemble a game in which, you know, they can get better. And we're not just doing things that are, you know, worthless for their time and my time too. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
So interesting to hear you talk about this. You can see, like you said, the passion, the love that you have, the sport, the game coaching, and all the different aspects.
Yeah.
I'm
glad. Hopefully, you know, there are some coaches that have coached a long time, but it doesn't matter how old you can usually hear it in their voice. So I'm lucky. I'm young and I have passion.
Exactly. You do have the passion, but you also have the deep roots of athletics in your family. Your dad coached basketball, your grandfathers competed at the collegiate level, and then even officiated in the Mountain West. Yeah. How has that legacy influenced your life and your goals for basketball?
Yeah. I mean, I always feel like I was fortunate in that, right? Like, I was talking to a coach earlier this morning, actually, and I was saying at the youth level, sometimes you got to meet the parents with where they are at, because there's some parents, like, they've never played an organized sport, period. Like, so when you talk about like basketball, like, they have no clue what's
you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You need like the basketball book for dummies.
Exactly. Might have to change the name on that to get on the good side of the parents.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, when I look at the way that I was raised, like, a lot of things came easier. I remember I had one argument with my dad growing up, like, as a kid, and I thought like the easiest shot in basketball was like the shot, like just shooting right in front of the hoop. And he's like, no, like it's a layup. Like you hit the top of the square and it goes in every single time. But I was going to die on my deathbed that like the shot right in front of the rim.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's like easiest shot. So I'm like, I had a parent that was like, no, dummy, like, come on. Like it's obvious, right? What the easiest shot is. And so just even like I was probably 6 years old when that, you know, happened. But, you know, growing up in an environment where it wasn't just like sports, it was like excellence in sports. Like my dad, he coached for 13 years at the college level and he's in 3 separate Hall of Fames. Like my grandpa, like, you know, coached the Mountain West, like he has a plaque at Colorado State for his service, you know, in the Mountain West. And that gave me kind of a sense of like, okay, I got some work to do.
Yeah, man, you gotta like show up.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't just go through the motions, you know, like, and so for me, it kind of gave me like a heightened sense of like, I gotta go out there and I gotta compete, you know. And we ask our athletes sometimes, you know, in my setting, but also at Schmidt Performance, like, why do you play basketball? And for me, yeah, like I wanted to play basketball because it was the sport, you know, kind of choice. Like, man, I got to play this sport. Like, so yeah, there was some of that dynamic of like, yeah, my family wanted me to play it and I had a ball in my hands at a really young age. But at the same time, like once I found my why of playing basketball, like, yeah, I don't want to just win. Like I kind of want my teammates to go home and cry. Like on top of the level of like, I have experience, you know, and I have a great, you know, background and knowledge of the game, but then also figuring out, okay, like when I step on the court, I want to make sure I compete at the highest level possible. I don't want to just be there.
If you're going to do it right.
100%. So that was kind of my mindset, you know, after the fact of having a great foundation. But guess what? I wouldn't have that mindset and be ultra competitive and be a high performer if it wasn't for the background that I had to. It would probably be a little bit harder for me to reach the levels that I've gotten to if it wasn't for, you know, my dad, my grandpa, but then also like my mom too. Like, you know, she had a background in sports, but she was there in moments for me throughout my career too, when I needed someone that wasn't going to look at it through a coach's perspective.
Right.
Like,
you're like, can I talk to a human?
Yeah,
real quick?
Exactly. Especially with her psychology background. Like I would be a millionaire, you know, if I had $1 every single time she would look at me. She's like, you need to be kind to yourself, you know, you know. So it's like having that, like, tough dad that, you know, knew the game of basketball, was going to hold me accountable, but then also have a mom that, you know, was going to see things for what they were, you know. So yeah,
really sweet. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing to learn. Just beyond coaching, you mentioned it earlier. You built something unique with the WNBA Fans Only, which grew over to 50,000 followers before you sold it to Playmaker HQ. Can you first tell us a little bit about it, how you got started, and what did you learn from running such a large sports media brand that athletes themselves can apply to their personal platforms?
Yeah, so it's funny how this kind of all came about within the WNBA and then also in this basketball in general. I have a friend, he actually is the head social media coordinator now for the G League, so the feed in for the NBA. And he kind of was able to get that role and get that position by making it happen himself. So he created a fan page that was called G League TV. And so he created that page and he built that thing up really, really well. And I remember having a conversation with him once and we both agreed we're like, the WNBA is next because the G League is something that has continued to rise up and people kind of just know it. Before it was a league where they weren't getting paid much money. It used to be the D League. The whole reason they're the G League is because Gatorade wanted to be the main sponsor. I mean, you're doing pretty well if Gatorade wants to, you know, buy you out.
Exactly.
And so I was like, we both agreed like, man, women's basketball is going to be big, you know? And so at the time, it just was kind of divine intervention. I was playing and coaching in Minnesota. So I lived 10 minutes away from Target Center. And so I just started going to the WNBA games. I'm like, I'm just going to make this happen myself, you know? So once again, being passionate, sometimes you do some stupid things because of your passion. And so I was like, I'm going to go to these games and I was like, I'm just going to find a way to meet the players. And so, I'd go to the games and after the games, I'd kind of wait around and I was just like, let's see if the players pop out over here.
Why not?
And they would stay at a hotel. Now I sound like a creep. Geez.
just staking out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, gee whiz, man.
Just the life of the sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't contain it.
Exactly.
So much passion.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd be waiting out there though, and sure enough, players coming out. There'd be other people too, like autograph hounds. I was not one of those, but like people trying to get autographs, young girls too that want to meet, people that they look up to, and I'm just there like chilling, like, hey, I want to try and get some content, for my page. Like, hey, I met so and so, crazy enough, like I was able to meet some really cool people. I met Sue Bird, I met Brianna Stewart, I met Candace Parker, I met a lot of, Kelsey Plum. My brother's a clothes designer. He has his own brand. He actually got a jacket for Kelsey Plum. So throughout all this type of stuff, it was cool because then I was covering the league and I was doing stuff like that. And then on top of that too, I was able to kind of shoe myself in and be able to be like, hey, can I meet you and post this on the page? And so met some, those were the high level, players too. But then I also met some of my favorite role players too, like Becca Allen. She's a player from Australia, just a great person. I also met Sabrina Ionescu. She was, man, you talk about motivated and passionate too, same type of thing. Just some great players, and I was able to kind of see their personality to your point there too. And I'm like, man, this league needs more and more coverage. Yes. So by the time that I created that page, there was not even a page around that would cover the WNBA. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And so luckily I found out pretty quickly that people wanted to see that stuff. Yeah. There just wasn't an area for it. There wasn't a community for it at all. And so I just kind of had to be the vessel to supply that, and so that was a lot of fun. I love coaching and I love, more of that hands-on approach, but luckily I've been blessed with different gifts too. So I was able to run that all by myself.
Yeah.
And grow it up to over, 50,000, followers as you said. And so, within that, brand opportunities come. So like one of my favorite pages growing up, if I wasn't watching a psychology lecture, I was on Basketball Reference, and Basketball Reference partnered with me. I did some brand deals, with them in order to help their company out. And so we both got something out of it too. And, just different companies, different sponsors. And that was cool. And then Playmaker HQ came in. They just loved what I was doing, and they wanted me to stay on board, but it came to a time for me where I was like, I just want to give everything to coaching. Yeah. So that was about a year and a half ago now, that I ended up selling it. But man, you can't build something if it doesn't exist. And so, for the brand identity piece to it, like you got to put yourself out there, like, and be vulnerable. Like, I'm not stupid. At the time when I was in college, I'm a 21-year-old, guy, like running a WNBA fan page. But guess what? I wanted it to exist. Yeah. And so I made it happen, and so,
that's awesome.
So there's a lot of people that say, yeah, I wish this existed. And I'm just not about that. You either do it or you don't, and so for me, I created it and it was a lot of fun. And, the WNBA since then, Caitlin Clark wasn't even in the league when I started it. Paige Beckers wasn't in the league. It's just going to keep growing, So it's been a lot of fun to watch the growth of that league, and they're continuing to find how they can identify themselves within their athletes too. I know at the beginning, is very, feminized in that way. Mm-hmm. It was like, the Sue Birds of the world, all that type of stuff. Like they were kind of forced to be this specific person. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of getting to a point now where they're able to be themselves, whatever that may look like. So it's been fun to see them kind of go through those phases as a league too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing how it just keeps growing and more people are watching. So thanks for sharing.
For sure.
All right, looking ahead, what are your goals for Fort Collins High School and yourself as a coach, and how do you plan to integrate like the athlete branding and personal development into your program?
Yeah, so I think understanding, number one, with our athletes, why do they play the game of basketball? What are their goals? Something we've been talking about as a team is like, what environment do we want to create when other people walk into the gym? But ultimately, when we come into the gym every single day, how do we feel? Is this a place we want to be? Especially when we get into the season 5 to 6 times a week.
Is it a home?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so creating that, and then understanding like through that, what is your role on a team? Like I was kind of a nickname guy, like when I was in high school, and I think you have a sense of identity when you have a nickname. And so like I still remember nicknames that I gave people. They were all very nice. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not bullying anyone. But like when you can have a team that you go to, like my name's Carson. I always remember my college coach. He just that always made my day. He's like, hey, Cars, how you doing? You know, like when you can go to a place and you know you have a sense of belonging, I think that's, yeah, exactly. And that can help so much. And like, you know, part of the reason that I coach, you know, women's sports, you know, too, is because we need to own that stuff. We need to own that. Like, guys are much more like, they have that ego already. Like, I am the man, you know, like every time they step in, it's like, there are so many, it's crazy. Like our team, part of the reason that I love recruiting at the college level too, on the women's side, like I never once had to deal with like a grade issue. Like all these girls are such good students. Like some of our best players on our team, they're all taking AP classes. They've got 4.3 GPAs. Like I don't need them to go around like with a sign that says, hey, look, I've got a 4.1 GPA. But at the same time, they need to own that. Like, look how hard you're working in the classroom. Like, that's a part of who you are, and that's a part of your identity, that you're a great student athlete. And on top of that, what clubs you're involved in, other sports that you play. So owning that, I think, and understanding that, you know, that's part of your identity, and people find that really cool, and they can connect with you on different levels. And then, you know, your first question, expectations, you know, for the team. I'm a competitor, and so every time you step out on the floor, like you want to win, like big time. But for me, like I just want to compete, you know, like when we go out.
Good game.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to go out there and just like, if we're undersized, we're undermanned, whatever the case may be, I want to make sure we leave it all out there. And so we got some good teams in our league for sure. But I want to make sure that like we leave, you know, swinging, like no matter what. And so, for us, that might look differently by game, having different game plans and just being bought in. You can tell when a team is disconnected. You can tell when a team is completely bought in. So for me, as a goal this season, yeah, I want to win basketball games, but I want to make sure we're connected throughout the entire season, and that everyone feels like, man, we just squeezed all of it out. You know,
Let's all on the court.
Exactly. So that's more the goal than anything. Yeah, of course, you know, being able to win conference or, you know, make it to the state tournament, all that type of stuff, that's great. But those are larger goals that, you know, I might not be in control. And I think we can control the work ethic component and, you know, being 2 feet in for the season now. So that's definitely what I'm looking forward to.
Are you looking forward to any like particular teams?
Yes, I am. So being from Fort Collins, we have our in-city rivalry. So the 4 schools are us, Fort Collins High School, Peter, Rocky, and Fossil Ridge. Fossil Ridge is one of the newer schools, and those were the games that I look forward to the most because they're the closest in proximity. All are very close, but those 2 schools are closest in proximity, and man, those games were a lot of fun growing up. So I look forward to those games the most just because I have, you know, some stake in the game.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you know, our girls, I know they're already looking forward to that too.
That's cool. It's awesome that you get to like be a part of it too. Like you get to like almost like go back in time and be like, wow.
Yeah.
Like it's another time to go to high school.
Exactly.
That's so cool. That's awesome. All right, Carson, we got one last question for you. So we've talked about your coaching and your legacy and what you kind of want to leave behind, but how do you want to be remembered as a person?
Oh man, just things got deep really quick.
Seriously, a loaded question for sure. I like to ask everyone because everyone always has a different answer.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Can we go through some like past family trauma first?
Therapy sessions.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a great question because I feel like you should at a certain point think about that on a daily basis too. Like something my family probably makes fun of me for, like, because I do question it a lot, is like, what is your why? Like, why do you exist? And there's some people that I think avoid that question. And I'm someone that tries to tackle it, you know, head on. And so the reason that I coach is because I want to try and get everyone's full potential out on the court. And that's a byproduct for life. Like sports are life in a lot of ways, especially team sports too. So if I can get the most out of you on the court, more than likely in life, you're going to start to become that same person where you're not just settling for good. You want to become great. And so I say that because that's my vision as a coach. For me as a human being, I want to make sure I'm fulfilling my potential, you know, every single day too. And so that looks different, you know, in different settings too. Like I know people have talked about Michael Jordan and like you could play a card game with him and he'd be super competitive. I'm competitive in basketball and the things that I'm passionate about. Outside of that too, like I'm not as like type A or anything like that. So when I think about the legacy that I want to leave. I want to make sure that everyone that I interact with just has a good experience, too. And so I'm not a perfect human by any means, but it's like, yeah, that person treated me well, and there's someone that I could tell didn't just care about themselves. Like there's something bigger than them. And I think you can feel that in someone's soul, for sure. But for me, when I interact with people or when I talk with people, I want to make sure that like, I'm just simply not a jerk.
Yeah.
And they can understand that like, man, this person like really wants to try and get the best out of me, and they're trying to fulfill their potential, every single day. I feel like I'm here for a reason. I think there's most certainly, a higher power than me. I'm not my own idol, and I don't idolize anyone on this earth, by any means. And just making sure that I'm fulfilling, God's purpose, for me every single day, and using my gifts that He gave me too. So, for me, if I'm doing that on a daily basis, I'm happy and hopefully leaving a positive impact.
Well, thank you, Carson. That's amazing. Awesome.
Well, just like, thank you for being here. Everything is so insightful, so interesting. It's been great to hear your perspective on coaching in the game, athlete branding, future Fort Collins basketball. We'll be keeping an eye on your journey for sure. And we're wishing you the best of luck this season.